The reality is this man, just living his simple life, decided to go bowling on the saddest, darkest, deadliest day maybe in American history. Welcome to the Kevin Clancy Show. I've been in this game over a decade, and I knew I needed a place where I could run wild on my own solo podcast, where I tell personal stories, I deep dive into conspiracy theories, we rip through the current events of the day, and we do sit-down conversations with the most interesting people on the internet. Make sure you click subscribe so you don't miss an episode. What's up, you mutts? It's another episode of the Kevin Clancy Show with a behind the blog feature today. Probably the most important guest on phase 2 of the Spite Tour. It's PFT commenter in what I would call one of my white whale interviews, which is funny because I work with the dude. He's a coworker. I sit 20 feet away from him. You know, usually a white whale interview or the one that you put up on that pedestal is someone who's unattainable or a star that you can never get to or someone you don't know. But I always considered PFT this like interview that I always knew I had a chance to do it, but I thought it would happen like 5 years from now, 10 years from now when it was all said and done, because he is so mysterious and stays in character and is always doing satire. And obviously the idea of behind the blog is you go behind the blog, you go behind the sunglasses and behind the character and you learn about the person. And he's so successful and doing so well with it that I figured he didn't want to do that yet. So I hoped that one day we could do it, but just not anytime soon. And as a matter of fact, when I decided to kick up the Spite Tour, I said, fuck it, I'm going to book all my own guests. I don't need help from anybody. I'll do it myself, and I want the people to decide. So who do you want next for Behind the Blog? And PFT, number one vote, far and away. And Jeff D. Lowe was second, and that's why we did Jeff. And I was just thinking, I know the people want PFT, but he's just not going to do it because it would... You know, in his mind, he doesn't want to ruin the character or, you know, break the fourth wall, break kayfabe. But I got to give a shout out to the dog, Nate Dogg, because I said, you know, PFT was the number one vote, but, you know, that's not going to happen now. And he was like, you know, man, I don't know. Don't be so sure. Like, I think he might do it. And so I asked him, and he was like immediately like, I'm down, I'm in. Which I guess was silly of me to think, like, let PFT answer. If he doesn't want to do it, he doesn't want to do it. But at least ask the question. I was just so sure that he was so content or so hell-bent on not, you know, taking off the sunglasses and not being pictured and not be out of character. But he was like so happy to do it. And it sounds like he's really eager to speak as himself and talk as Eric and not PFT commenter. And really what I think you'll learn in this interview, and something that he already knew but I think confirmed with our conversation, is there is not a character anymore. It slowly has morphed into just who he is. And the humor and the jokes are still like his comedic style. But a lot of the opinions and beliefs and things that he's talking about at this point on PMT are just him. Now, the sunglasses are, of course, a big point of contention. And we talk about the sunglasses in the conversation. There was some discussion about him taking the shades off. And I got a text message from him when I asked him. He was like, I'd love to do it. I'm actually excited to do it. I was like, oh, wow. Like, thank God I brought this up. Because if I had just assumed he was going to say no and never asked him, maybe this never materializes. And he writes back like, yeah, man, I'm really excited to be able to like talk as myself and not be in character. As a matter of fact, you know, the sunglasses, I've been thinking about taking them off. Maybe that would be the perfect spot to do it. And immediately I was like, oh, fuck. I texted Nick. I'm like, yo, if this guy takes these sunglasses off, we're going viral with the Barstool world, like top of the charts. Everybody's going to want to see that. YouTube subscribers, views, downloads, let's go. So there's a discussion about the shades and everything else. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, front to back, beginning to end, funny, serious, new, old, Barstool, non-Barstool, everything from this dude who's one of the most intriguing, captivating, and talented guys in the game today. And he's a dude that I unfortunately have not gotten to do much content with. He specializes in sports. He's always doing PMT, different days recording, different hours from us. So we were always kind of like off schedule and never really overlapped. And at Barstool, we do this weird thing where it's not like, there's never been like competition between me and him, but there is an atmosphere of like, be the best and be at the top of the charts and there is a healthy dose of competition. With certain people, it gets like toxically so. Never with him, but there was this thought I had where it was like, why not have one of the most popular, talented people on the internet on your show? He works right fucking there. Like the amount of collaboration that we miss, the opportunities that we miss at Barstool, it's fucking insane. If you think about it, everybody else, all these other outside comedians and athletes and actors and entertainers come to Barstool because they want that seal of approval from Barstool. They want it from us, right? Because when we say something's good or we have someone on our show and co-sign it, it means that carries some weight. And yet we don't do it for the people here. It's like, come on my show and I'll support you and grow you. I go on your show, you co-sign me. It works wonders for us the way that we do it for outsiders. But we just don't do it internally because, I don't know. That's just the atmosphere that we created here at Barstool. And that breeds other entertaining things, that breeds other success where, I don't think if me and Dave were all kumbaya and we weren't feuding and arguing and fighting and being funny, busting balls, that Barstool wouldn't be the same. I think, having these internal, like, this guy versus this guy, this girl versus this girl creates a different set of drama, if you will, that's just as valuable. But man, sometimes I think if we kind of did it, like I always joke about Entourage, where it's like, if we were like Vinny Chase and the boys, like all riding for each other, how much more successful could we have been? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe the pirate ship, renegade, vengeful, toxic, competitive, like arguing, toxic masculinity vibe is what separates us and made us different. But I like to think if we were all like had each other's backs and we're always like doing each other's shows and cross-promoting and pollinating and all that shit, all those buzz terms, we would be, even further along and even higher. So long story short, thrilled to do that with PFT. And this interview was, if I haven't been doing content without him throughout the years, this is like we crammed it all into one shot. A 2-hour, 15-minute saga of a conversation. So that's coming up in the second half. But first, we are coming up upon the 20th anniversary of September 11th. And I've been telling myself for a couple of years now, and always missing it, I always forget to do it when the day rolls around, that there is one story that I need to discuss on the anniversary of 9/11. Some people talk about the guy with the red bandana. Classic story of the Boston College kid who saved dozens of people before losing his own life in the towers. Everybody's got that a story or a tale or a little anecdote about someone who was there that day or something that happened that day that's memorable and inspirational. But the greatest one of all time is the story of William Morrow, Bill Morrow, who bowled a 300 on September 11th, 2001. The story is brought to you by Cast App. Cast App is an app that allows you to ask questions to your followers in real time. So, for example, when we wanted to find out who do you want to hear on Behind the Blog next, we put it out to our followers, and Cast presents, here are your choices. Vote on this, vote on this, vote on this. Here are your replies, and then gives me all the information I need to get real answers from real people in real time. So if I want to find out who to interview or what shirt to sell or what color to make the next drop or what day to put out my podcast, I put out the question on Cast. I have everyone vote, and the Cast app gives me all of the feedback and all of the answers in an easy-to-read chart where it's like, here's how many people voted yes, here's how many people voted no. The people voted yes are this ranging in this age, in this demographic. They have this to say, everything you need to know about the type of people and the answers they're giving. You can use this for work, like I said, or you can use it for discussion purposes. You want to know who of your listeners or fans or friends thinks is the greatest quarterback of all time, or who's on the Mount Rushmore, or who's better, LeBron or MJ. Except other social media apps, people are just blasting off into the abyss, blabbing their answers to the big black hole. Nobody's listening. Everyone's just fighting and arguing, or there's no way to have tangible results. Cast app gives you that tangible statistics with real answers in real time from these people, so you know exactly what your followers believe, what they want, what they don't want, and how to act upon that. Go to join cast.co, and you can sign up today or download the Cast app at the Google Play Store for Android or in the App Store for iOS, and start asking your questions. Cast those answers, get the cast the characters to answer, and find out, for example, who to interview next on your show, the way I did with PFT. You can follow me on Cast. I'm at KFC Barstool, and everybody else. Anywhere you want real answers from your social media banter, join Cast to do it. So this is the story of Bill Morrow, who lived in the Great Barrington region in southwest Massachusetts. Lived there all 67 years of his life, living a very simple, easy, secluded lifestyle, working at a paper mill, real blue-collar, salt-of-the-earth guy who decided to go bowling on 9/11. And not only did he hit the lanes, but he rolled his one and only perfect game in his entire career on the darkest day in modern American history. It's a story that is so preposterous that it reads like an Onion headline. It feels like an episode of like Twilight Zone or Black Mirror. It's an SNL skit. It's a punchline of a joke. It's completely and utterly ridiculous. And it's the one story about that horrible, tragic day that brings just a little bit of levity to it. Just makes you chuckle and go like, what the fuck, man? And the Huffington Post ran an article from this guy who tracked him down. He spent, like every year, this guy, Luke O'Neill. He's almost as interesting as Bill Morrow himself. He spent every year tracking him down, trying to find this guy who lived this very, like simple life. And the only thing we had to go on was this tweet, this fateful tweet from this guy, Jack Bender, on Twitter. If you are on the bird as consistently as all of us, you know this infamous shot where he said, "My brother was at a bowling alley in Western Mass, and he sent me this iconic photo of the dude who bowled a perfect game on 9/11. And it says there, Bill Morrow, 300, 9/11/01, with a picture of his big bald head with a nice smile on his face. And that's where the search began. He didn't track down Bill Morrow until 2017. And the funniest part of his journey as like a reporter was when he finally got the number and called him up. His wife answered. And she said she wasn't surprised. The quote was, 17 years ago today, he bowled a perfect game down there. And she told me with pride, it was as if she had been waiting for someone to call this entire time. This idea that like every year around late August, early September, the Morrows are like on the edge of their seat thinking like, is this the year they find me? Like every time the phone rings, they're like, is that it? Are they on to us? Did they finally track me down? Do they know what I did? As if it's some like dark, shameful secret or some family secret you have to hide. But the reality is this man, just living his simple life, decided to go bowling on the saddest, darkest, deadliest day maybe in American history. The worst terrorist attack on American soil ever. And Bill Morrow and the boys pulled the ultimate Big Lebowski, fuck it, dude, let's go bowling. And in his own words, in this article, in this interview, it's unbelievable because he says it so calmly. And he invoked the words of Rudy Giuliani. He said this was the concept. Rudy Giuliani at the time said America's going to go about their duty. We're not going to let this divert us in any way. We're America. We're not going to be scared by this. Everybody should go do what they do. And we did. The whole country did. We didn't just stop. We had jobs to go to. We had functions to go to. We had motherfucking bowling lanes to hit. We had 300s to roll. Fuck you, Bin Laden. Fuck you, Al-Qaeda. Fuck the Taliban. We're out here throwing stones, baby. Bowling perfect games right on your fucking head, not 12 hours removed from your great attack. That's America. That's freedom, motherfuckers. And the craziest thing was Bill Morrow saying, again, in his own words, he's talking about that day. And he says, he goes, well, we started at 6:30 in the evening, and then the league would start at 7. So, of course, everyone was talking about the events of the day. As if it was just like water cooler talk, just like some local neighborhood gossip. And they were like, yeah, the interviewer was like, you decided to go bowling anyway? And he said, yeah, they still had the leagues there. Everybody was going, and they didn't cancel anything, so we just showed up. Which, again, is, I'm sure some people look at that as crass and insensitive, rude, dangerous, a million different ways you could describe it in the negative. But I see Bill Morrow and his buddies being like, well, they didn't cancel it, right? Put my shirt on, grab my ball, and go hit the lanes. Like, oh, we don't live here. We're not in Manhattan. We're not under attack. We're not a threat, and we're not going to stop. Fuck the Taliban. We're going bowling. To me, there's something so pure about that. And even the way he described going to work that day, he said, I was at work when it happened. Of course, we didn't have a television there. What? Why is that an of course? Like it's not like the 1940s, dude. Like everywhere usually has somewhere that the news is on. I don't know, I guess at this particular paper company, maybe if you're really just working in the paper mill, if you're in some sort of mill, you don't have any sort of news. But no television was on, but he did have access to a radio. And he said, of course, everything was dead silence. We're listening to all the things that were going on. We stayed at work. When I got out, and this is where it just gets unbelievable. When I got out of work, I went home, I watched the news, got home around 3:30-ish, had supper, and I got ready to go bowling. Just had the TV on all the while, listening to the updates and the reruns, the constant reruns they were showing. When we got to the lanes, everybody there was talking. They had TVs on at the bar. It was a lot of conversation about what would be happening next. And that dude just stepped up and did one of the hardest things in all of sports. Achieved something that, like, the average guy, the average competitor would have on their bucket list and dream of doing. And that's what makes it so funny, if you will. And I hate to use the word funny. I know people get sensitive around 9/11, and rightfully so. And it's a day to mourn and remember and not laugh and not joke. But goddamn, just knowing that if you strap Bill Morrow to a lie detector test and you asked him, what's the greatest day of your life? There's a chance he would have to answer September 11th, 2001. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's the day he got married. Maybe he had kids. Maybe there's another special day that exceeds that. But if you're a bowler and you have one and only one perfect game, that is one of the greatest days of your life. And if that man is answering honestly, if you gave that man truth serum, said, was 9/11/2001 one of the top 5 days of your life, he would have to say yes. And there is something so paradoxically dark and funny about that. And the picture and the tweet and the look of him, he's got the earring and the glasses and the smile looking like Mr. Clean, and just knowing that there was a crowd gathering as he's like 6 frames, 7 frames, 8 frames in, 9 frames in, the 10th frame, he's going for his second and third, going for that turkey bowl or whatever. And in the background, on the little TV at the bar, are reruns of the towers falling and reading off casualties and talking about the president going to war. And just like the worst, well, arguably, think about this. Let's say at the time there was fucking 350 million people in the country. You could probably say that like 349,999,999 people were weeping, were devastated, were mourning, like almost across the board. 99.9999999% of the country is experiencing one of the worst days of their life. And Bill Morrow's cheering. You gotta know on that last bowl, when you hear the rattle of those pins, the crack of the pins, and he realizes he's done it. He's got his hands up. He's running around the bar. His buddies are high-fiving him. The bartender's pouring out shots. The women are like, oh my God, the guys are jealous. His friends are celebrating for him. They're like, we got to get the picture out to put you up on the plaque on the wall. All during September 11, 2001. It's the greatest juxtaposition of sadness and happiness, of misery and accomplishment, of dark and light. There's something so pure about a 300 where it's like you're all alone trying to bowl it, but nobody's rooting against you. You're not really competing against them. Everybody wants to see it happen. It's like throwing a perfect game or a no-hitter where you witness history and you do it all on your own. You're by yourself. And you got to have concentration. You got to be dialed in. And this dude was able to block out the collapsing of the World Trade Center towers, of the death of thousands of people innocently, while the world was forever changed for the worse. We became scared, we became combative, we became violent, the government took away freedoms, long-lasting effects. The list of bad things goes on and on. And in that bowling alley, in that moment, was probably one of the greatest celebrations of all time. I can't. And the interview is just as good as the event itself. Like, he went on to talk about his own conspiracy theories, that he believes that 9/11 was a little bit suspicious. He said, "Oh yeah, when you hear experts say that it was a planned demolition, the way that those came down, thermite and different things that were used, how fast they cleaned up and got rid of evidence, you got to admit they did a quick job of cleaning up that mess and got things back to order. And Building 7, which was just not affected at all, that just came down. That was very suspicious to me." This is Bill Morrow, who's got all the answers about what happened during 9/11 while he was busy bowling, drinking, beer out of Dixie cups, drinking like SoCo lime shots probably at the bowling alley. He went on to talk about the Kennedy assassination. There's a few conspiracies I believe in. The biggest one they're talking about on the news now is the Kennedy assassination. The anniversary that's coming up, the government's hiding a few things. From what I understand, Lyndon Johnson had a lot to do with it. He and Kennedy were always feuding. Kennedy said something or did something to Johnson, and Johnson said he wasn't going to let him get away with that. They had an interview with Johnson's mistress. She gave a lot of evidence too. So, this is, God, what an interview. If I wasn't about to tee up PFT as what I think is one of the greatest interviews that has ever been done, one of the greatest conversations between two of the internet OG titans, I would tell you that Bill Morrow's interview is the greatest of all time. God, I would love to sit down with that man. Just pick the brain of, psychologically get inside the mind of a man who accomplished a task that needs to block out every other thing going on when the most unblockable thing in all of our lives was occurring, and accomplished one of the most satisfying, difficult, and happiest moments during what had to be the darkest moment for, like I said, hundreds of millions of people. Bill Morrow, the man who carried freedom on his back that day. When everybody was hell-bent on keeping our way of American life going, when George W. Bush threw out the first pitch several weeks later, when airplanes began flying several days later, when the markets were open several days later and the world was cooking days, hours, weeks later, Bill Morrow wasted no time. Bill Morrow ate his supper, got to his bowling lane, and created history for his own right. The same fucking day. Fuck you, Bin Laden. You didn't even stop Bill Morrow for a half a day. You didn't stop Bill Morrow for a single meal. He didn't miss a fucking thing. Not work, not supper, not practice at 6:30, not league bowling at 7, and not a perfect game. Not Bill Morrow, Bin Laden. Not America. Remember that. America didn't stop that day. That single day, America didn't stop because Bill Morrow went out there and bowled a 300. one of the greatest American stories of all time. Despite how you might view it, I think it is the greatest tale of perseverance in the American way in the face of certain tragedy. Bill Morrow is America. And so is PFT commenter, who is one of the guys who took his balls and his talent and jumped off the cliff. A lot of people here at Barstool or comics or internet entertainers have a story of leaving a job or bailing on their school or wasting their degree and taking huge pay cuts. And PFT, he's got that one for real. Like, I left a job, but I didn't leave a job until I had it perfectly lined up, where my money was right, and there was like 2 ships passing in the night where I could transfer one paycheck to another. PFT, you'll come to learn, had a very good job at a very young age and said, fuck it, I'm going off the cliff. I'm doing it. And along with a lot more interesting stuff, a lot more risks that he took, and a lot more genius that he put into his entire act and his entire career. He is one fascinating dude. So Behind the Blog featuring PFT Eric is brought to you by Manscaped. Now, you know PFT's look is the shades, but it's also that long hair. And unless Danny Woodhead wins a Super Bowl anytime soon, I don't think he's going to be cutting it. So I think he's just going to be this one overgrown 5'10" man, you know? But I'd hope that the rest of his body he keeps neat and trim with Manscaped. Right now, Manscaped is the pinnacle of the manscaping genre. Think about it. It's become the word. It's become the verb. It's like the brand name Band-Aid or Kleenex. It's manscaping. It's what you do, but it's their company name. That's how much they run this industry. They are Manscaped. They are what you need to do to your dick and balls. You got to go manscaping. Yeah, that's us. We're actually Manscaped because they've got the technology. They've got the Lawnmower 4.0 with the ceramic blades that operate at 7,000 RPM with nick-proof and waterproof technology, so you're never going to cut your balls. You're never going to ruin your equipment, both the physical equipment on your body and the electronic equipment you're using. They've got the ear trimmer and the nose trimmer with the weed whacker. They've got the ball deodorant to keep you smelling good. They got the crop reviver, which is a lotion that keeps you smooth and prevents ingrown hairs and any razor bumps. And then you put on their boxers, which are moisture wicking, so you don't sweat and stink up all your hard work that you just accomplished and took care of. So Manscaped is what you need to make sure that your junk is smooth, clean, and hygienic for whoever's going to be down there and enjoying it. And right now you get 20% off when you go to manscaped.com and use promo code KFC. 20% plus free shipping and free returns at manscaped.com. Promo code KFC. It's Behind the Blog on the Kevin Clancy Show featuring PFT commenter. Hey, Rock.
Let's do it. Yeah. This is going to be fun.
Yes.
I'm glad that you asked me because we can get into it all like throughout the conversation, but it's good to have like real conversations.
Well, that was kind of what I even wanted to start with is like, do you ever want to just talk like yourself or be yourself and not be a character and not have to be on or incredibly witty or whatever? It's like, you do that so often now.
Yeah, it's been like, if you followed the stuff that I've put out over the last like 4 years especially, it's been a gradual process where it's like you're getting now more of me, like way more of me as a person, and way less of PFT. Like I try to reserve the PFT commenter thing for writing and for tweeting for the most part. But like I realized back in like 2017 that it was not going to be a great sustainable career path if I'm just like always acting like this dickhead all the time.
Yeah. While it is endearing and super funny, it's like, at some point,
there's a burn rate on it.
Yes.
Yeah, and like even for myself, I can't imagine the people that are listening to it that would be like, for example, like if you're watching Stephen Colbert every single night, when he was doing the Colbert Report, which I thought was really funny.
It's like probably his best work ever. Yeah.
It was great, but there was like he had to have like a personal end to that just to like keep his own sanity and move on. But yeah, like with the stuff that I'm doing, like especially on macrodosing, I'm just being like myself.
That's just
on
totally
that.
you.
That's just totally me. And I'm part of my take for the most part. It's like 90% now, just like me being me, which feels good to do. It's like a little bit, it's more comfortable, definitely.
You know what's funny is I can't believe I didn't like ever make this connection to myself, but I remember thinking, it's so funny that we call this guy PFT. Like, we just say these 3 random letters.
Yeah.
And it's obviously exactly the same for me with KFC. Yeah. But because it's my actual initials, I don't know, I just felt it very different than like PFT because it's Pro Football Talk, and it just felt stranger to me. But really, it's no different than just saying KFC or TJ or whatever. Yeah. It's just letters. But because I know what it symbolizes, sometimes I felt weird. It's like I'm calling this guy this name that's technically a website acronym.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, I feel bad for Mike Florio.
Yeah.
Like,
well,
I've kind of cucked him out of his name there.
Totally. I mean, if you say PFT, nobody's thinking about the football website anymore.
Yeah.
And for a long time now.
I think there's probably like a specific age delineation where it's like,
true.
If you're above the age of 40
yes.
and you hear PFT, you're thinking, trenchant news and legal analysis when it comes to NFL CBA contracts. And then if you're below 40, you're like, oh yeah, it's the dick joke guy.
Yes, 100%.
So yeah, there's definitely like a schism right there. I had negotiated with Florio a few years ago actually, so he agreed to never sue me for using PFT as my name if I gave him the RG3 No Pressure No Diamonds trademark. So in RG3, like he let his trademark collapse on that.
And you actually grabbed it?
I grabbed it, and
no
then
way.
Yeah, and then he wanted some of that, so it was like, it's all yours. You can use No Pressure No Diamonds. So really bad negotiation by Mike Florio.
Yeah, on his one. Yeah, probably could have gotten a lot more out of the other side of that.
There's a reason why he's not a lawyer anymore. Yeah. not great. It was weird. Like, it's funny that you brought that up because just a couple weeks ago, I was down at the beach and I had like 3 or 4 different friend groups that came over to my house at the same time. And some of them were friends from college, some were friends from high school, some of the Hard Factor guys came up, and then some people here from Barstool were hanging out. And then my buddy Mark from Hard Factor, who I've known since, probably like 6th grade, 5th grade maybe.
Yep.
He started calling me PFT. And I was like, what the
fuck is this
I was
shit?
Like, no, what's going on?
Yeah.
You don't call me that.
Right.
Like, what's going on here, Mark? But it's definitely like something that I've just kind of like learned. I guess that's my name now.
All right, thanks for watching today. That was just a quick teaser for what's in store for the full interview with PFT, which will be tonight on Behind the Blog. You can click here to watch the full thing, 2 hours and 15 minutes with my guy. Thanks for watching.